That's where it all starts. No matter where you are, that's where you start.
Yes, and I must stay there because I always loved, and I have in every in ecosystem, in a school, in my salons, even in Serbia, we have so-called puppy love program, and it's a free grooming. Actually, it's a free service for the puppies up to 6 months of age. So once they are done with all of their shots, whoever is taking whatever direction with that, so the pet parents feel safe to come into the grooming setting and environment. But the only way for the pet parents to keep it free of charge is to sign up for the program and show up once a week for some sort of the treatment. So then it's kind of like 10-15 minutes of something, right? Mm-hmm. And the dogs are getting in this routine of the environmental and exposure to all the noises and relationship with the parents, with the groomers, with the people that are not pet parents. And once they graduate from Puppy Love program, I must tell you how many people are completely amazed with the result. And even if they do not keep coming back every once in a week, they're going to start coming back once in 10 days, or maximum they're going to stretch it in 15 days. But I find this Puppy Love program the most greatest investment into marketing campaign that you can spend money actually on, investing into a real client and actually building a trust for the longevity of that dog that's going to actually love you from the get-go. And the pet parents are feeling somehow entrusted to trust us, because the people feel like easy target when they have a baby, the first time baby, like a human baby, right? The first child and a puppy. So then everyone is like, you need this toy and you need this and you need that and you need everything, right? And here you are having one within the industry that tells you, I'm going to work with you. This is going to be on house. But the only reason to keep it free is to come once a week and to keep doing the program. So in the program we laid, depending on a dog, we have today we're going to do this and next time we're going to do that and that's how we're going to do. So it's kind of like 20 minutes. So we get a chance to socialize with the pet parents, to meet them, for them to meet us, the groomers to meet puppies. And a Puppy Love program gave almost 100% of the marketing return in investment if we count that time that we invested in doing it for free. And those dogs are actually set for success. And as you said, the puppy is the moment that you can mold the physiology around what you want to do from them. But a lot of dogs are not like that. A lot of dogs went to a bad experience.
A lot of grooming establishments, they don't want to do it because they say, well, it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay. But it does.
It does.
It pays for the rest of that dog's life.
Yes, it does pay. And I must tell you, if we compare, for example, if I were to run an ad campaign or, take a social media campaign or whatever, right? And I'm going to throw out the money. And occasionally I'm gonna hit with my investment in the marketing, with the marketing budget, potential customer, right? Mm. But with this, if I say, okay, the Puppy Love program is on house until puppy reaches age of 6 months, right? So it's maybe like 4 weeks, because the people would start coming to the grooming shop maybe 3 months, 4 months, right? So it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. How much money is that if you invest that in one dog's entire life that's coming after that? And that dog is actually learn the environment, learn the people, learn about the procedures, almost literally sleep. Those money are the best invested money in our future and Absolutely. The future of the dog and everything else, right? So I love that program. Now that you mentioned, I'm actually so proud of that. Even when the people are, I don't want to do it for free, but I'm going to give them 50%. I always come back and encourage them. Give out to get. That's the laws of nature. as you sow, so shall you reap. Kind of like more we give out, more it's gonna come back. And this, what we give out through the Puppy Love program, it's actually coming back to us in a much in a different layers. So there would be a well-being of the dog that we served, the dog that is actually enjoying the process, we that enjoy the dog that enjoys, and all the joy that comes out from this. And then oftentimes some students will listen to it, some they won't, but and ones that listen usually develop much stronger and bigger portfolio with the great clients that are actually building this trust from the get-go and the puppies. Because the difference in between 50% off and free of charge is tremendous. Building a trust with the pet parents, but everyone is ripping them off, you are giving something away for free. But then down the road, it's literally always was 100% and return to investment, and not to mention how many gifts I got, how many tips I got, because you just do this to do it, right? And you don't expect anything in return, just the well-being and the beauty of the dog's relationship that you develop through that time. But the pet parents don't want to, take an advantage of that. You have some of them that do, but majority of them feel grateful. They want to pay back somehow, and they try hard to pay back because they see what we do for the puppies.
And doesn't that behoove you to do that? Because at some point in time, if somebody doesn't give time to that puppy and educate it gently into grooming, you're going to have to do it anyway at some point.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be harder. And if the puppy's not going to like it as much as you would if you would just introduce it correctly.
Yeah. And then the pet parents would, oftentimes we would have them engage in that process. Okay, this is how you brush the dog. This is what you do. This is when you stop. This is what you do yourself. This is what you don't do. You need help and things like that. And then you actually get a partner. Get a partner. But that's, oftentimes, but, we are today here to talk about other side of the story, when the puppies are not developed into the grooming routine and the people are taking their dogs from the shelters, a lot of them abused on a lot of level. They don't trust people. They don't trust strangers. And today we are about to share beautiful stories of the rehab, if we can call it that way, like success stories. You have Abby, if I'm not mistaken, right, Abby?
Yes.
And I'm going to share the story of Maron. So is there anything more you would love to share before we dive into that, those experiences we had?
I've made this type of groom my specialty over the years. Simply because there was a need for it. There were so many, and there are still so many who are being mistreated, not out of meanness, just out of not enough education, not enough knowledge about how this particular species acts and works, and how their brain works, how they live, what they do for their inner need for survival. I think it's really important to understand all those points so that you can understand the dog in front of you. Instead of yelling or becoming frustrated, the dog is frustrated too. Yeah. Imagine not being able to, like a locked-in syndrome. Imagine being fully aware of what's going on, but you can't move or speak. You can just move your eyes. That's basically where they're at a lot of the time. If they're not being heard, they just shut down. Sometimes you'll have a puppy come in and be perfect. You think, oh, I can just do anything to this puppy. What's happening is the puppy's frozen and just allowing you to do the things. And then the next time the puppy comes in, it's just all hell breaks loose. And it doesn't want to do anything because it was frightened the first time. Sometimes just a little bit is enough. And the rest should just be love.
Yeah.
For the first couple times.
And also, the what you point out is actually the hormonal structure, the very at play is very complex chain of the reaction triggered by the environment or the expression and perception, because not necessarily intention of the groomer or the pet parent is bad. It comes from the place of pure love, and oftentimes the people do what they think the best for their dogs. But what we oftentimes forget is that does not count. What counts is a receiving end. The way it was perceived in the moment when the receiver was taking all of that experience from their end. Right. And I oftentimes as a parent, as a child firsthand, I oftentimes like to compare that with our parenthood, me parenting and me being a child, right? From both perspective. When I talk to my dad oftentimes, and when I say how badly I felt when he did something or said something, he would say that was never my intention to do. And it would be same when I talk to my son or my daughter when they complain about my behavior. My intentions were pure, but that does not count. What
But it
counts,
sits in your heart for your lifetime.
yes, it does. But what actually count is a receiving end, and that oftentimes we need to develop that empathy to understand that there is our willingness to do something and a goodwill and love and perception out from which we give service and we give love, right? But that has nothing to do with how the receiving end gonna perceive what we did or what we taught or what we think the best outcome would be at one point. And that is oftentimes because of lack of empathy or misunderstood way of developing the empathy through our lives, especially us in this world of the pet space, right? We are here because we didn't know how to be empathic within the people's relationships, right? And we ended up caring for dogs, and then the same vehicle or driving force that took us into this industry gonna be the most biggest obstacle to overcome in order to free ourselves from this forever circle of what's older, chicken or the egg. Like, am I frustrated because the dog on a table, or the dog on a table is frustrated because of me? What triggers what, and how to stop that circle? But I think you pointed out perfectly that receiving end is what's at stake, and we always need to consider how these actions of mine or how my emotional well-being at this particular moment of me providing the service affecting the whole being of the dog in front of me. And am I actually at my rightful place? Am I providing this service with from the rightful place of my fullness or incompleteness? And do I expect this dog to fulfill my needs, or I'm here to be in service to that dog? And oftentimes I see when that perception and that mindset clicks in the professional groomers, the entire experience of what we go through the day is changing 180 degree direction, completely the opposite way, for good.
Yeah. A lot of people are getting on the bandwagon, realizing that their dogs are better and they have a better day with their dogs when they slow down a little bit and start changing the way they see things. If you change the way you see things, what happens? The things that you see change.
Everything is a perception. Everything is a perception, right? We can watch the same painting and you can be obsessed with it. I would say, like, who drew this? Who would pay $1 million for this, right?
Absolutely, yes.
So the world we live in is a perception, and the perception is in the eye of the observer. So the entire world is in the eye of the observer. And that's coming back to the human-dog relationship and the pet care professional relationship to the pets. But nevertheless, a lot of people entering the industry and a lot of dogs needing our help and services are not coming from the place of safety. They are not coming from the place of in which the life was nice to them. And now this becomes a battlefield of everyday struggle with the dogs that don't want to cooperate because the groomer or myself is not showing up fully present. And we have all kind of explanation and excuses why that's not possible to be present. But what I always envisioned in my life, I was an opera singer for a while, and then when the audience comes in a theater, and when you enter the stage, no one cares about you anymore. The show must go on. Your emotions doesn't count. What happened that morning doesn't count. Are you sick? That doesn't count, and no one cares about it. And
I was there to be entertained.
Yes.
They want to be entertained. That's what they pay their money for. And if you channel it correctly, if you're sick, you do better.
Yeah.
If you're nervous, you do better. All those things that you get tied up before you go out on stage, you do better. If you learn how to channel them and use that and push that emotion out into the audience, then everything connects and you find that sweet spot. And then it's fabulous for everyone. And then after it's all done, you can go lay down and collapse.
And cry. And that's what my point here was actually, when you charge for your services, when you take someone's money that you don't know how hard they worked for, and there is the money, for example, in the theater, the people want to escape every day right and troubles and pay the tickets and listen to the opera, maybe listen to Traviata for 50th time, so they know what's going on there from the beginning till the end, right?
They just want to escape into it.
They want to escape in this fairy tale, and at that point, no one cares about the artist. An artist is in service. And the same counts for the dog groomers, and same counts for every single professional. Once you charge for your services, you are in service. And you are in service of something greater, because we never know what the people need to do in order to have that money that's going to put the bread on our table and pay for the schooling of our children, or help us go 2 times or 1 time on a vacation, or help us build dream homes and careers to enjoy. But at that point, when we are in front of the table, when we are talking to the customers and we are charging for our services, we are professionals. And in that split of the second, we lose our freedom to be what we want to be, because we are in service. And that's always very interesting to see how the people that are coming to do this, because it might look like it's a lot of good money and easy money, just grooming and cutting the coat of the dogs, show up here and they cannot find themselves, because the job is very much demanding and both emotionally and physically, and taking the last drops of our being to be in rightful service. And if this is not your dream job or your destined job, or this is something where you do not feel like coming to every single day and be in service regardless, that's maybe time to reconsider. As my teacher would say, run away from there like it's a burning house.
If you can't find the joy of it, it would be very difficult for me to consider going on into the grooming world. You have to have joy in it. You have to have compassion. And even though in our minds we think, oh yeah, of course, I have that. Sure, everybody has that. We like dogs. We're patient. But then push comes to shove, and it's really not. Some people have it and some people don't. And that's not anything to say against the people who don't. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not just, okay, yeah, I'll breeze in there and groom a couple dogs and whatever. It's giving of yourself, all of yourself.
All of yourself. Yeah. And then a lot of people are just not ready to do that. And the dog's going to expose us like an open book. So oftentimes I like to say to my students and also to the colleagues, and when I teach on seminars, I like the dog wants your honesty. It's okay not to be okay. But this is the last profession in which you can wear any mask. Pretend that it's okay when it's not okay, because you want to, just suck it up and move on, because it cannot be like that. The dog going to expose it. But if we grow emotionally and emotional intelligence to a level in which we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and show up vulnerable, and not to be neither afraid, neither ashamed, that's what actually is a source of strength. And then the dogs feed on that strength, and they surrender, because it is okay not to be okay. But if you show up in that way, not pretending that all is okay and everything is under control, where actually behind the curtain everything is falling apart, that dogs don't trust us. And that
they know we're liars.
Because we lie ourselves. Oftentimes we pull out those masks that we are not even aware of, because we did that to survive. So but when you start exposing and expressing and having more difficult dogs every day, that you maybe enjoy, out of 10 dogs or 5 dogs, you maybe enjoy 1 or none, maybe it's time to reconsider the way who is showing up, in front of the dog, and why the dogs don't trust us enough to surrender, because that's the whole point. Because the joy from the human-dog relationship comes from the dog accepts us as a source of secure attachment. The dog knows that they can be safe next to us. The owner is gone, and now we are the only human that they can relate to. And it doesn't matter which kind of relationship they have with their humans. Oftentimes we see that, and how many times we told the pet parents, just go, they're going to be fine. They're going to be much better if you go.
Right.
Right?
They're looking for whatever person or whatever being will give them the best chance of survival in the situation. And that really is that's the bottom line. That's what they're looking for. Make them feel as if they are going to survive it. Yeah. And not only survive it, but enjoy it. Yeah. And if you go in with that end, maybe the dog doesn't love it all the time. And that's fine. But at least you're honest and you're giving your best. And they know that. And they will calm down and they will become more cooperative.
Great. This was an amazing intro into Abby and Maron's story. So would you take us through how did you met Abby, and what was the reason, or do you remember?
I met Abby. Unfortunately, she was being groomed in the salon that I helped refurbish and bring to a high level. And I watched her be groomed at a young age, and it was horrifying. It was really bad. Things had to happen in order for her to come to my table as a client, and then I rehabilitated her from there. She'd been restrained with everything at the same time, and was fighting for her life. She'd had her face being pulled, being smacked, all that other stuff, and I finally got her away from that groomer. The groomer no longer worked there, but I see what her whole grooming life was like. That's what she was used to. So she didn't like going in a kennel. She didn't like coming out of a kennel. She didn't like being away from her mother. She didn't want to be on the table. She didn't want any of that. And I said, okay, that's fine. Let's start from where we both can start. So I learned how to take her out of the kennel. Not only did I have a slip lead to loop over her, but then I had a whole huge beach towel folded in half, and I kind of gently put it in there, and I scooted her out with her back towards me. And that's what started the whole process. It came to be, I put her in the kennel, no loop. This dog couldn't have any loop. She needed to know that she could escape at any moment. That had to be. And look at her there. She's so sweet.
This is Abby. This is Abby.
This is the way, yeah. And her jaw is crooked, like her bite is off. And she just looks super bean. Like when she's in the kennel and she isn't brushed out yet, terrifying.
That's actually terrifying, so sweet.
Because she will bite. Like she would absolutely lose her mind. But
and it's you have that. Is she like a straightforward biter, or she's like have a signs of warnings?
At that point, she would just bite you, but she would look at you dead in your eye.
Oh, she would
not blink like a scary monster. And at that point, I just did her from behind all the time, no matter what I was doing. And then over a period of maybe 3 months of this, I let her lay down on the table, and we just did her like that. And I just moved her gently. I barely talk to my dogs, but some I do talk to because they respond. But for the most part, I'm silent when I groom these dogs. We communicate by touch, by movement, by energy. And eventually she just laid down, and then she let me just gently move her into place. And I could absolutely get nose to nose with her there at the very end. She did move to Indiana, so I did lose her as a client, but I hope they found somebody that would allow her to be groomed gently. I have to check up on her, as a matter of fact, but this was very recent. But I think for 6 solid years we worked together, and that dog would jump into my arms when she came in. And that is such a contrast from this fighting, miserable, terrified dog, being so mistreated, into learning to love grooming again. And that's what it takes. It takes befriending that frightened individual and teaching them that, hurt is not going to come from my hands. Occasionally you're going to catch a little mat and she'd go, "Yape," but that's about it. And then we tease it out of there or we trim it out of there because it doesn't matter at that point. What matters is her having a good life. And that's what I aim for. And she went from being that to this lovely, we kept her little face short. All four of her feet were beautiful. She was in a one kennel or one comb trim all over. And mom adored her. Mom thought that was perfect. So you don't have to be perfect. Your underline doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be serviceable for the parent and for the dog. Otherwise, you're not getting anything done. And the dog just goes and is sedated at the veterinarian, and then they just shave it down. And what kind of life is that? Anesthesia really messes with your ability to breathe. It messes with your temperature. It messes with your blood pressure. So all those things, all those dogs that are being sedated for grooming, they're shortening their life every single time they have to go through grooming when they're sedated. And that breaks my heart because all it takes is somebody willing to go the distance. Now, I'm not saying that it's all safe. You're probably going to get bit a couple of times when you do rehabilitation work. It's going to happen. I've been bitten before. I've been scraped before. I've had close calls, but you have to learn what those communications are from the dog.
Yeah.
If they go to bite you or growl at you, you have to listen to them. You can't teach them not to growl. You're just saying, okay, I don't care what you think when you teach them not to growl. You have to let them communicate with you. And if that's all they have, let them say it. Reposition them. Give them a break. Work on something else. And eventually you will gain this animal's trust and you'll know exactly what you can do with that dog. I do a lot of rehabilitated dogs. Each one of them has a process. All of them don't have Abby's same process because I'm meeting the dog where they are. I'm meeting the dog where they need me to be for them to feel safe and feel like they're going to survive.
And that's oftentimes, that's an amazing point in which you draw this wonderful picture that actually she was safe when not challenging you by watching you in the eye. You kind of like she was turning away from you and you was working her from the back. And in this picture, that oftentimes is something that oftentimes can serve as our first kind of like a safety procedure, is to avoid the eye contact, because oftentimes eye contact is direct confrontation, especially with the dogs that are always that are feeling insecure. So and they want usually no animal gonna attack or fight or bite or growl if they don't want to, if they are not afraid. So that's why the reason of everything is not that they want to control you. It's kind of like show you where your place is, right? Or put you in place because they want to be dominant over us. What they want to do is just express their uncertainty and their fear. And this is the way some dogs turn to do it. Right. But also there is a very important point you made as well, is when you said you don't talk to your dogs and you you talk to some, but kind of like we run this, our program and our policies in a school is no talking, no communicating. The only policy, the only place they can talk by the protocol and by the book would be a break room or outside the shop, because we train them to understand that talking around the dog oftentimes is distraction for my own insecurity. So I talk, not to be present. So that's my way of coping with ADHD on one end, but on the other end, because the dogs always interconnectedly are experiencing the environment, and you actually never know when you're going to use a wrong word. Not intentionally, but unintentionally. Just me talking to a colleague, or me explaining something to a dog, or me singing the song might trigger something that sometime was put in a place and combined with the wrong experience. And at that moment, you are actually losing the dog. So not losing a dog, I mean losing a dog. I mean like a dog starts reacting and then you can do nothing. Oftentimes, I remember when I was in a school, we were taught that if the dog growls, if the dog spools, if the dog does something, you do not consent to that. You keep doing what you started to do because you want to show them who is the boss, because you're going to show them that you are not insulted with their growling, or you are not incited with their pulling. And if they pull, you pull harder, and occasionally they're going to give up. But that's exactly the contrast. The contrast of what I do today is actually when the dog growl, I stop, because I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel heard, and I want them to feel safe. And then the next moment I'm gonna, okay, that's maybe now they're growling because I approach them from this side. And because you never know why they are growling, because literally a lot of dogs, because of the misbreathing and wrong diet and a lot of other things, are inflamed left and right. They're hurt. They're hurt. Their joints hurt. Their hips hurt. Their legs hurt. Their mouth hurt, right? Because of the oftentimes bad teeth and everything. No matter when you touch them, they literally can feel pain. And some dog gonna say something about that, the other gonna get scared, and the outcome of that fear gonna be aggression. Yeah. So meet them when they are, and I really love the way you presented this, Abby, because the way you actually gently started to get her out from the kennel with the towel. So have that intermediate buffer in which you show that you are there but still safe for her to slowly surrender, and avoiding eye contact and not talking to her is just an amazing tool that everyone can use tomorrow to kind of like give a dog's possibility to perceive environment as much more safer than it was last time. And slowly, as we add more safety and more perception of the safety and more acception of their level of the consciousness, a level of the fear, because you cannot tell to the dog, oh, this is not fearful environment, you don't need to be scared, right? You don't need to be afraid of anything. That doesn't count. What counts is how the perception of the environment, and that's already, established inside them one way or another through the interconnected web of how the sensory, how the senses are actually communicating with the environment, and how the brain process all of that, because we never know how last time or before time or previous time the senses were connected. So sometime maybe just the color of my shirt can trigger some old memory, and there is a dog not anymore in the present moment with me, but in some memory of something happened to them when they were surrounded with the blue collar or whatever, right? So oftentimes we need to be much more aware, and that calls for a lot of consciousness, for a lot of presence that the people
If you
usually
work from behind also, and you're not looking at the dog, you can see very well how they communicate, because if you're doing something that they don't approve of, or they're starting to be unsure of, then they look at you. That's communication. Because if we're not looking at each other and the dog chooses to look at you in that moment, that means there's something going on. Readjust, work on something else, and come back to that moment. Don't stop like the dog wins. I don't know how else to put that, but
no,
so
yeah.
the dog, so it decides that, oh, okay, I could just look at her and she won't do anything. So, but continue to do things, but maybe move it an inch or two away from where you were working and do something else. Maybe just start to brush again. And this is in the beginning. Eventually that dog is going to become trustful if you're doing it correctly with that dog in front of you. The dog will become to trust you, and you'll get less and less looks like that, and more loving, sleepy look. Look at their face, their softness of their muscles, the softness of their eyes and their eyebrows. You can look at their muscles in their jaw, in their neck, and they're going to tell you exactly where they're at. Just as plain as I can say, hey, that makes me weird around my neck area. They're telling you that. So
there is always like even if it looks that they're gonna bite without a warning, there is always a warning. We just need to, so there is no dogs that bite without a warning, because the biting in the world of the canines and any other, going into a fight, right? That's what they, because they don't know if they bite us or they start biting us, will we respond the same way, right? That's if we put ourselves in the mind of dog, when they attack someone, there is to expect that who is attacked gonna attack back. So attacking or being aggressive or going to attack a groomer would be a last option, because that might, in the little canine mind, lead to possible confrontation that occasionally might lead to death, because that's how the fight is always in the nature. One wins by giving up,
Yeah.
or by winning over the other one, and the other one can be injured fatally. So in a nature, fight is always left for the last possible option. If I cannot fly away, if I cannot freeze, I will bite, I will attack. But there is always a chain of warnings. It might be a muscle tension. It might be a look. It might be it always must be a chain of warnings that necessarily don't need to be a growling. Can be something. You said like she wouldn't bite, or actually she wouldn't warn, but she would always look at you and do something. And if you do not react on all of those warnings, occasionally she'll gonna, get at us.
I have
and
worked
warn.
with a couple of dogs who've been taught not to growl, and that's a whole different animal. They will bite with no warning whatsoever, but that's a small percentage of dogs.
Really?
Like
How do
2
you
times
teach
out of 100.
How do you teach a dog not to growl?
Hitting it.
Punish them?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And those dogs would actually go into but I mean, like, again, like, I'm just curious now to find some of those dogs and experience like being bitten by them to see did they give me a warning, and then how that warning goes, because these shock collars and prong collars and all collars are actually, you can train whoever, whatever. Lions and circuses were like something that I was loving it when I was a child, until I didn't see the other side of the coin, and then I hated them, right? So I loved zoos, but then I started hating them, right? When I learned that maybe in our country they would say, and that would be on tour, when they said, well, you keep elephant hungry, and that's how you control them in the zoo environment, because if they wouldn't be hungry, then they would be maybe much more prompt to leave and destroy and move around and go away. But
Doesn't that make your heart sad to hear that, though?
Yes, it was like, I was so sad.
Oh, we don't feed them. We keep them starving.
Yeah.
And then they do what we say.
And then not only that, but they would just, you throw them a little bit, you want them there, and you throw them a little bit grass there, and their entire little herd is running there. I said, how sad this can be, and how we can normalize this. Well, it's a preservation and learning and curve and this and that, and the elephant or a lion in a zoo can live like 25 years or 20 years, and in nature they live like maybe up to 5. And I mean, later on, like, how that justify if we ask lions, do you want to live like 20 years here or 5 years there? I bet like no one gonna choose the zoo.
Right. To live a whole life for a being that's meant to kill with their face and roam, miles and miles. That's a whole different mindset. That's a whole different way of being, and you have to be ready to understand that if you're working with them. I worked at a zoo. I mean, I realized that there are different ways that animals think depending on what species they are and what's important to them. You have to really understand that.
And was that true as well in your zoo, that you keep animals hungry so you can control them?
No. We had what's called a conservation zoo.
Okay.
So it was an educational. You didn't ride the elephants. You couldn't, be mean to anything. We took animals that were had to be cared for because they could be released back into the wild. So they became educational animals. So they had species-specific diets. You have to understand the plains animals, how they like to herd, how they like to be together. Every single exhibit, if you will, had elements in it that served the needs of that particular species.
But they didn't bred them inside the zoos, or they did? They just die off in a zoo, and then there is no generator. I see that.
Yeah. And then they generally would acquire someone that couldn't be released back into the wild if they needed a new lion or a new elephant or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Oh yeah, so that was a very inspirational story, and we touched a lot of things with Abby. And if you really listen this, what Michelle just talked, there is a lot of very important key points that you can take like tomorrow in the consideration. But also, working with dogs, meaning not being afraid of dogs and not being afraid of being bitten, and agreeing to that. And more you agree to being bitten, less you're gonna be bitten. Kind of like, if I'm okay with it and I don't mind, then the animal respect that, and actually they see that there is no energy within you that feeds that if they're gonna growl or bite you, that you're gonna be scared, right?
It ceases to become an option.
Yeah, there you go. That's an amazing thing. Yeah. So I was like, I learned to be bitten in a school when I was in Hungary, in Budapest. I was 16 years, and it was a commandor. And we were working on that commandor, I think, like 7 hours, like treading the things aside and then bathing. And dog was like calm like a cat. Like there was like nothing. And then because he was a big, and I how long it can last the bathing of the commandor, and they were dirty, and I don't know, maybe 5 shampoos and whatever. Like, it took forever. But on the end, it was like wonderful and everything was great. And I put him, because he couldn't fit in the drying kennel that we had there, I put it in front of it. That's why I was advised by my teacher, like put it in front, like put the towels in front of the kennel, just start a fan and put the dog in front of the kennel and let him lay down. It's gonna be okay. So I put the dog there, and as I moved away, as I'm turning away, he jumps and takes my arm, like literally rips it apart. Like, I don't know, it was like one bite, but he took it so meticulously perfect that he got a little bit of my tender, right, and off my biceps from my shoulder. So it was like blood was like all over the place.
Oh yeah, you got ripped.
That kind of like that didn't. He bit me so precisely that I was not even in pain for a while. I didn't even felt how
you were in shock.
Yeah, probably in a shock. But that was like that actually taught me that you can be bitten in a grooming environment, and I agreed to that. And that was my how you say that, vatreno krštenje, kako se to kaže? Kako? Christening, or how you say that?
Yeah, he christened you into the industry. Absolutely.
So kind of like I was in. So I do not fear aggressive dogs, and maybe that's why I also work with them, and I do not consent to their behavior that's non-acceptable, because there is no reason for it. And I always try to acknowledge. So I always, as you say, we need to meet the dogs where they are, and if I do something, or I, have a brush or do brushing or cutting or produce a noise or did something that the dog is not comfortable with, I would stop. And as you said, I would keep doing things, but I would stop it there and then do something else. But I would not stop the treatment. Right. When I stopped, that was like a great example. We were in a school, and the dog was for the first time here. And then whatever happened in the school, the fire alarm went up. So and that dog went crazy, because it was like, but the dog was like completely normal. So the girls were like shaving. It was like 5 all over or something like that. And then in the middle of the groom, the alarm went on, and dog completely freaked out. And there was no way, because the dog now connected Clipper and the students and the sound. So that like a triangle, and there is no way out that you can actually break that pattern in a dog at that point. So my decision was to put the dog back in a kennel, so at least somehow something stops this circle. So we are not doing it anymore, because now we have an external impact to this process. And then when the dog calmed down a little bit, they put it again, the same student put the dog back on the table, but the dog wouldn't be good. They never, and they didn't. They start to panting a lot, and they moved around a lot, and they would sit down, and they wanting to jump away from the table and things like that. And I said, okay, put the dog back in a kennel, and let someone else
Yeah.
have it. Let
Always.
someone
Yeah.
else have it. And when someone else took the dog, another student, the dog was completely fine.
Mhm.
So that gave us a chance, because I was able at the spot to kind of like point out what was the full experience of the dog. So what was a clipper, was the environment, was a student, and was a loud noise. So if I cannot remove the environment because the dog is insane. We did put him in another suite because I told her, use another suite. That was before I replaced the student. I said, just use another suite. But no, it was not enough, because the part of the experience was a student as well.
But
So
listen to this. This is an actual study that was conducted. They took 35 dogs in an environment, in a college somewhere, a university. I can pull it up later on if you want to know the one. But they were working on the trust factor of dogs. So they had half of the people that would point to a box with a treat in it, and they did it individually for each dog. And the dog would go over there and the treat would be there. They'd eat the treat and everything was great. Then they took the second half of the people, and the people pointed to boxes where there were no treat, or took the treat out and put it in different boxes and pointed to a box that didn't have a treat in it.
Oh.
And once the dog went over there and studied it and saw there was no treat, only after the first time, all 35 dogs refused to trust the ones that did it wrong.
Oh my God.
And only trusted the people that pointed to a box with a treat in it.
With a treat.
So if you think dogs aren't discerning between
They
people,
are. Oh my
for
God.
some reason, they
are.
really are.
They are.
And it all comes down to, this person is not going to lie to me.
Yes.
You have to be honest and you have to be trustworthy, because it all comes down to survival. I'm going to need that treat. I don't know when I'm getting my next meal. I want to be with the people that are actually leading me to a treat and not these liars. So if you really think about that, how dogs think about their environment and think about how they're going to survive something, that has everything to do with the dog not being lied to. And maybe she had something, or your student had something that wasn't connecting with this particular dog, and he felt lied to. And he's not going to cooperate.
That what actually was a trigger, and what was a lie too, was the sudden noise of the alarm. So that was what connected a student with the clipper and the dog and the environment and the loud noise that just came out from nowhere, because that fire alarm is like crazy. I don't know. This is not a big school, kind of like we have it's a big school, but the rooms are kind of like not as big for that loud noise. So it was like everywhere. So dog was freaking out. And then again, like maybe the student, of course, the student try everything the best. They try to serve that dog because on the end, she really cried. But she said, what could I do different? I said, you couldn't do anything different. You are just outcome of the circumstances, that the dog lost the trust because sudden noise came with you present next to a dog and a clipper in your hand. So if I would keep forcing you to finish the dog would actually eventually lose the trust in the entire environment and the process of grooming.
Yes.
And that could label the dog for a life.
Yes.
So, and that's why it's always important for the groomers to be present. To be present and to see what all of this that happened now in this particular moment or couple of moments ago contributed to the change of the behavior. And then see how you can break the pattern. Because only way for us to break the pattern of this dog that was connected, the clipper, the grooming suite, the student with the loud noise, was to replace the student. And the dog slowly regained the trust, and the other person was able to finish the dog without any problems.
And that's the correct way of doing things. If you feel like you cannot serve that dog correctly and the dog is still afraid, there's somebody else that dog is going to connect with, and it's not your fault.
No,
there's no fault. Your fault would be to continue to do that dog no matter what.
Yeah.
You have to let somebody else try that maybe has a different rapport with the dog. That is the best outcome. And
it's always but that's also where I also can see what can I change, right? What can I change when the dog starts moving left and right? First, I need to reevaluate my report with myself and let's say previous 5 minutes, previous 10 minutes? What did I do? Where my attention was? How and what maybe caused this dog to react in certain way? Because we are never against the dog stubbornness, aggressiveness, behavior, spoiledness, or whatever. We are against the dog's physiology, or against the dog brain, against the dog's survival strategy, as you said, as you perfectly named it. So whatever the dog see, touch, whatever touches the dog, whatever the dog hears, whatever the dog tastes, whatever the dog smells, whatever the dog emotionally perceives, all of that creates an experience. And
It's
all
a
of that
snapshot.
it's a snapshot. And then outcome of that experience gonna be something that the brain gonna process, and then just after that went into very complex hormonal changes inside the body, becomes a behavior. But that's even though it happens maybe instantly, that's a long lasting chain of biochemical process inside the dog's body. Milliseconds of the things in between trigger and response, but it's a complex and long chain of internal necessity of the dog's body physiology that are put in play, and that changes the outcome, how the dog reacts to a certain stimulus. And the grooming environment is packed with a high end triggering stimuluses, because we build an industry around the fear, and we want the dog in a free state, because then they are the easiest to manipulate, they are easiest to work with. They are just, and then oftentimes we just want to run that as fast as possible, especially in a corporate setting. But and also when you have a manager or whatever that's counting the dogs and counting how many hours you spend on the dogs and things like that. But I think once we become more conscious about the dogs and their well-being, entire picture of our report with dogs changes, and that ultimately change how we feel. And from the moment in which we are coming with that pain in the stomach because there is a Abby or Maron on the list of the dogs today, we are suddenly coming with the challenges to overcome, and then the joy that comes out from me figuring it out and finding the best way and better way, and that report is like amazing to a point in which Vedrena, can you stop those things, please? Disconnect the phone from the okay, I don't know, do we have a time for me to share the Maron story?
Yes, I want to hear it.
So Maron was a dog that was actually sent to us from another groomer. It was it was like in a, how far away, like 30-45 minutes away, is another city. And we had a great report with that groomer. And she said, like, I cannot do this dog because it's very responsive, very aggressive. The pet parents at home tried all kind of training methods and nothing works. And the reason why that comes and starts coming to the point was that the dog had a tremendous allergy. He was biting and itching the coat, and almost he would itch itself down to I don't know. He would itch the skin, and it would not stop. The skin would bleed, and everything would just completely devastating, if I could say that, for the pet parents, for the groomer, and for the dog. Primarily for the dog, and then the outcome of that was like a groomer uncertainty and a pet parent's concern. And then they suggested us, and then we met. And then immediately I saw how much the dog is out from structure, and that dog tries to do their best to provide a survival for the entire family, because entire family is. And then I think we can talk about anthropomorphism in our next podcast, because that's a topic on its own.
That's a thing.
And I think like this is an amazing journey to that, because uncertainty of the dogs comes out from people humanizing them. Anthropomorphism, for every single one that listens and is not familiar with this, is just 1 second. Who is that? Okay, the dad is calling, so answer the dad. So providing and giving humanizing the non-human species, it's actually what anthropomorphism mean. And then we think that when we talk to our dogs and the way we perceive the world and the way we see the world, every single other non-human species on this planet is seeing the same perception from. But and that's exactly what the Maron's problem, the biggest challenge was. It was like a family that that was alone. So the parents, the husband and wife were like baby boomers, alone in a home, and there is a dog, and now the dog is a central in the universe. And once you put a dog on a central pedestal, the dog loses a capacity to be provided within the human-made world, and they cannot understand the world in which we think the dog observed the world. So the first
It's
point to me
stressful.
was, sorry?
Is that would be very stressful for a dog.
Yes, that is stressful. And
Terribly stressful.
so now the dog wants to care and provide from the family, but then on the other, the contrast to that is the family is the one to provide the food every day. So now they are food providers, but in the mind of the dog, they are completely unable to protect themselves, because if they would be really hunters and providers and going out there in the dangerous world and every single time coming back with the hunt that we share there later on, and then the dog gets confused, like if they provide, how they can behave like this, right? And that's when we baby talk to the dogs, and that's often, so it took me a while to address those things. And to the Maron's success and completely abandoning the behavior in a way that he stopped licking and scratching and chewing, it required integration of the couple of interviews with the pet parents to explain them the dynamic, to show them the dynamic, to show them how the dog is very easily to be settled if you let them settle by ignoring them. For example, if it's not he at that point, we sit in our like a living room, what we have, right? And then the dog was jumping on me and jumping there and wanting to go up and wanting, so he was not settled, he was like restless, and they would just petting the dog and things like that. And I said, like, because we are now talking, so you are talking to me, and if out from the respect now, I want you to listen to me, but then if you listen to me, there is no place for the dog. And then more we are in tune as a humans and understand that the dog needs to find their place within the humans. And if we keep talking, ignoring the dog, because we do not, the dog is not part of this conversation, like a spoiled child that always want to be on top of everyone. But the dogs are doing this because they're thinking that we are not capable and able to kind of provide and protect ourselves. So dog is taking that position. And then slowly, by talking to us, so we were talking, and then also the lady, the groomer, was present as well. So she was translated because their English was not I speak a very accented English, but their English wasn't fluid. So she was translating a lot. But as we went deeper in a conversation, there was less and less and less time for them to give attention to the dog. And slowly, as we in-tuned in our conversation and always giving attention as much to the dog's behavior, he settled down, he lay down. And at one point, the lady started to cry. And she said, like, I never had him lay down when the people are around. I always need to hold him, and if he goes to someone and then someone tries to, jump in someone's lap or something like that, he would jump in, and then people would start petting them, and they would bite. He would bite, and all kind of those things. So she said, I'm seeing this dog for the first time in like 5 years to settle down around the people that they don't know, that he doesn't know. So that was the first step. So I needed to work with the pet parents in order to overcome this stress that the dog had. And then later on, we introduced the mineral balancing diet and everything. So the diet changed, and we can talk about that in a future time as well, because the diet contributes to the behavior of the dog tremendously, no matter how much we are aware of that or not. And then on contrast, coat protocols that we prescribed were kind of like provided, were healing, moisturizing, and trying to re-establish that skin barrier as a protective mechanism from the outside environment. And coat grew back, the dog stopped being aggressive, he get completely different report with the pet parents, and as an outcome of that, completely different report with the groomer. She said, he's not biting me anymore, he's not confronting it anymore. So I chose specifically Maron because Maron was not my dog. It was not the dog that I groomed, neither the dog that I that I changed like you did to Abby, right? But it's very significant dog in my success because I was able to change that dog's behavior, to talking to a pet parent, to meet the pet parents where they are, and to slowly explain them that if they provide him safety from the dog's perspective, what the safety means, and allow the dog to be a dog, and provide an environment in which the dog would be feeling that, okay, the humans are the one that take care about me, and they're providers, and they're capable of protecting and providing, then the dog does not need to provide and protect anymore. And that's how actually aggressive behavior from him towards other people, towards grooming and grooming process, because the grooming process also caused a lot of pain. Then we changed the shampoo and conditioner because the fragrance-free shampoo and the shampoo with a lot of like a healing, like a panthenol and lavender and other but also very tiny little amounts was very healing to a dog. So then the pain that the fragrances and colors and all kind of those things can cause, if you put them on an open wound on a dog, that can also cause the mistrust to a groomer. So slowly we closed the gap, and now the Maron story is one of the most amazing stories, because only raising awareness and consciousness of the pet parent and another colleague of mine was enough to change one dog that I never touched with my scissors. And that's what kind of, when I was trying to figure out which dog I would talk about, I said there is a lot of stories, but as we are entering the education, I'm oftentimes more proud of my students' success than my own. And then the Maron came because that's the dog, and freshest to the memory, but also the dog that reminded me that the coat care and coat cutting is not only the groomer's concern. What we are actually, and that's why I've been thinking, when I was thinking about this integrative and holistic dog grooming, like 360 pet care, the grooming industry is easiest to evolve because we have already the most complicated trade of the canine care in our hands. So if the nutritionist would be to involve in 360 pet care, or the trainer to evolve in the 360 pet care, they need to add the most complex way of working with animal, and that's using a sharp and a dangerous tool for human and the dog, and put them in use, right? So for the nutritionist to involve in 360 and holistic pet care, or the dog trainer to involve in the 360 pet care, is too complex and complicated, and probably will never happen. But we, on contrast, like an industry, we already are in tuned, because we want our dog to follow our lead on our table. So half of the consciousness and awareness about the dog's behavior is already in practice. And if we add a little more knowledge about nutrition and a species appropriate care, that when we were talking about the zoo, you was very nicely talking about that, what a species appropriate diet and care means, and environment, from the level of their needs, not the human perception of what they need, right? And that's where I think, like, if the future of the pet care looks like integrative and holistic, that means that we should integrate more than a coat cutting discipline within the pet care. And I think the blue ocean out there is much easier to be reached through the dog grooming community, professional dog grooming community, because the most complex trade is already present, and we are doing that already. We just need to add a little more consciousness and awareness about the nutrition and behavior, and that's going to provide. And the people anyhow spend money on the behavioral problems and their allergies and the food related problems. So why all of that wouldn't be something that they communicate with their groomer?
Yeah.
Right.
And I also have to add to that wonderful breakdown of your dog. Don't be afraid to treat adult dogs like adult dogs. So many people, anthropomorphism, talking about that. So many people want to talk to it in a baby voice, this, and you can, but dogs want to be treated like an adult as well. And you can see that too when they look at you like, you are being really stupid right now. I'm an adult. My little Chihuahua, I've never trained to do anything, yet she does everything because she respects me and I respect her right back. We have a baby who's maybe not as bright as she could be, and maybe had some congenital defects and seizures and things that had happened to her. We remind her every night to go outside. I never have to remind Tessa to go outside. And if I try to make her, if I try to go, Tessa, go outside, she just looks at me like, I don't have to go outside. I'm a big girl. I'm an adult dog, and I know when to go outside and when not to. And it's just that thing. It's just a little piece of it. But they do want to be treated with respect.
With respect.
Body respect and respect just of themselves. They're grown. You've taught them. They're not a baby. And soon they may become senile, and that's a whole nother different story. However, the more respect and trust you have with your dog, no matter whether it's yours or a client's, the better fun the more fun you're going to have with that dog. They're so rich and fun to talk to and fun to be around. And to rob them of that is robbing yourself of knowing them in an adult way.
Yes, and then that's actually what was a success to this story is pet parents are always looking for the solutions, and oftentimes, because we see this tremendous, and what breaks my heart is seeing these numbers of the dogs abandoned from homes because the people are lost in this DNA of information from everywhere and everything. And the number one reason why the dogs are going out from home would be behavior problems. The second would be allergies and food-related issues. And the third would be problem with the coat and mess in a home. And whenever we are kind of like, and that's not a irresponsible ownership. That's oftentimes when you talk to the people, they just don't see another option. The vet bills are too high. They paid already 5 times to some trainers, and no one was able to fix the dog. And they just don't know what to do. And in any game in which the human well-being or the dog well-being is at stake, the dog is always losing. And we can say it's wrong. We can say it shouldn't be that way. But the numbers of the surrender dogs in a shelter in America increases every single year. In the most developed age of information, the pet parents are lost more than ever. And that's something that kind of like bears a big responsibility on us as a professional pet care system, part of it, right? Because we are not able to reach them. And then oftentimes I say, like, how many times I need to change my narrative, how much time I need to change the way I approach people to be of a better service to them, so they do not surrender their dogs. They do not give up on their dogs, because there is always place to learn. And if we can become that voice in a people's mind that, instead of before I give up, maybe I should try one more time, one more something. And then if you have a good rapport with your people, with your clients, then you might end up being that something, that last piece of advice that might, lead them to a brighter future with their dogs. And that's something that somehow, being on the edge and that opens always the emotional wound in me, because I'm alive because of dogs. I share that oftentimes. My suicidal thoughts disappeared when I was questioning, like, who gonna start caring for dogs after I'm gone. So when I see that because we do not do more, we do not try harder, and we are not in a service of complexity of that relationship, of the human-dog relationship, and have so much to offer.
Yes.
Right? The outcome of that is almost like a millions of dogs euthanized, fully recoverable. Because we touch base on 2 stories. And if someone else would get those dogs, maybe those stories wouldn't be a happy end to this. Right? Because the people would say, I just don't know what to do. She beat every single one that she could, or he beat every single one, and he's bleeding to death himself. So just a little bit more respect and understanding of the species appropriate care is what is needed to this world. And then the dogs win, and the people will win, and the world wins.
I agree completely. And I think the more we talk about it, the more transparent it will be. And if you and I can help one person understand, that one person will help somebody else understand. And by resonance, we will all understand dogs and ourselves just a little bit better.
Yes.
We can't, that's how we do. We can't get all of them. We can't,
Yes.
one person, one Sasha, one Michelle cannot educate all of them, but we can educate as many as we can reach, and our progeny, our students will walk upon our shoulders and teach others. And that's really the best we can hope for, and never stop talking about it. Don't think that there's a time where you should be silent. Never be silent. Not about this. It's too important.
Yes. Thank you, Michelle, for walking with me this path. And it's a great honor and respect to be part of this journey together with you, and together with you all of you guys that was tonight with us live on Sasha Riess official YouTube channel, or you're gonna watch a recording of this. I invite you to open your hearts to a dog's love for animals, and remember why you are here for the first place. Remember that love for dogs that oftentimes vanishes because we are so pressured, and this industry turns into something that takes out every drop of our life, and every drop of our life a love for those beautiful creatures out there that need us so much more than ever in this modern world.
Yes.
So I think this is a nice place to end this story today, and to invite you to meet us next Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and 4 p.m. Arizona Time, on another episode of the podcast Beneath the Canine Coat with Michelle and Sasha. Until then, thank you, Michelle, so much. I wish you all nothing but the best, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
What if the dog in front of you isn't being difficult? What if they're simply telling a story no one has learned to hear? Welcome to new podcast for professional dog groomers, Beneath the Canine Coat, with Michelle Knowles and Sasha Riess.